Welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Woolley. I'm our Director of Academic Programs and Student Services here at Georgia Tech. And I just want to welcome you to our next installment of our Safety Speaker Series. This one is going to be interesting and engaging, I can already tell, but safety through the lens of technology. So if this is your first time here, or maybe you're returning, I just wanted to remind you that this Safety Speaker Series is presented by our Professional Masters in Occupational Safety and Health. And before we get to our speaker, I wanted to give a moment I went too far, Dr. Ashuri. I want to take a moment to introduce our academic director for the Professional Masters in Occupational Safety and Health, Dr. Ashuri, and he's going to let you know a little bit about our program and then introduce our speaker for today. Babak?
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you and welcome everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are connecting in. My name is Babak Ashuri. I'm Executive Director for Professional Master's Degree in Occupational Safety and Health. I'm also a professor here in the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering and the School of Building Construction. And let me tell you a little bit about Professional Master's Degree in Occupational Safety and Health. It's a two-year program, multidisciplinary. We cover technical skill sets, but definitely it's a program for developing leadership and business skill sets. The objective is how to make a business case for safety, for investment in safety. The objective is how to communicate the value of the safety, how you develop a career in safety. And many people who come here either new or already practicing occupational safety and health in one way or the other. Through the skill sets they acquire through the program, they would be able to advance in their career. So you can think of that as a business degree, a leadership degree in safety and health. We want to come right in the middle and sort of, providing not only just the technical industrial hygiene and ergonomics and hazmat and other things that you need to know from the technical standpoint, also helping you in your personal journey of leadership and moving up the corporate ladder or perform well in the field of environmental safety and health. And it's a two-year degree, and the program is already accredited by Board of Certified Safety Professional. So you can get your graduate safety practitioner once you complete the program. And it's a two-year program, 10 courses. You take a course at a time. Each course takes 7 weeks. Completely virtual. We have a few points of site visits that you come to campus. But if you have more interest about the program, we can tell you more. We also have some information sessions about the program, but we welcome applications for the next year. We already have a great cohort that started in August, and we are accepting application for the next August, starting August 2024. But it's my pleasure to introduce you a dear friend and advocate for safety in the construction industry, both at the state of Georgia and nationally, Mr. Rob McKinney. He's a Director of Safety Services for the Associated General Contractors of Georgia. Rob has over 20 years of experience in various roles. Rob started as the site safety coordinator, working on airport jobs, power jobs and roadway projects, but he always has that passion for technology. You're going to see that through some of the presentation slides he would have today. You probably would be first time to see some of those technologies and how they can be used for safety planning and safety improvement. So he's one that we can call a Con App guru, and he has been a frequent speaker at the national and regional construction conferences. Rob is co-founding member of the Contech Crew podcast and Contech Roadshow. So we finally got a podcast providers on our list. So we welcome you here. He's a chairman of the AGC Georgia Safety Committee, AGC Georgia Technology Committee, and serve on the AGC IT Forum Steering Committee to help plan and facilitate the AGC IT Forum. I have to add the personal note. Our speaker today is really passionate about helping people safety and health, and particularly mental health. Some of the things that unfortunately a little unaddressed. I'm glad it's picking up, but you will find it a passionate talk about different aspects of occupational safety and health. Rob, floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Ashuri. It is great to be here with everybody. So let's talk a little bit about this technology idea. And let me make sure I can get my slides transitioned over. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to take control of the screen real quick. Let's make sure. All right. Is that good on your side, Dr. Ashuri?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, we can see that. Yeah.
Perfect. So you heard a little bit of details about me. It's always very humbling to hear a lot of things read back and realize, wow, in 50 years, I have been around and done a lot of different things. But one of the things that is most near and dear to my heart is what we're doing now, is presenting and sharing some information with you. These are some interesting ideas that I have been working on for nearly 20 years. And kind of the four major things I want to share with you all today is first, how could technology reduce risk in our industry, in construction? Because if you have not seen the numbers or if you haven't really studied it well, we are one of the most dangerous industries in the world. About 1,000 people a year die accidentally in our industry, which is 1,000 too many. And for a long time, while practicing safety, it made me really wonder, where can technology help reduce that number? And so first, we'll talk about how it can do that. And then we'll talk about how can technology improve safety performance? Because if you think about it, you have to look at the system that we're placing the employees in. So there's the work, but then there's the human trying to perform inside the system. And it's two different mindsets you really got to wrap your mind around. Then I'll give you a little bit of a challenge if you're currently working for a construction company or if you're working for anyone in industry. Is this the time to digitize safety? I still come across a lot, and I stress a lot of companies in the construction field that have not digitized very far in regards to safety. And there's so many improvements that can be made just from that. But we're also going to go to the other far end, and I want to talk to you about AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And then I'm going to give you several examples, kind of a speed date of some different things. But first, I always like to start level set. So let's just talk about our industry. I told you it's dangerous. It's also arguably one of the oldest industries on the planet. We have been building for thousands of years. There are things that are still standing around the world that humans built. We put materials together. There was design. There was an owner. There were workers. Wasn't as organized today, but, you know, we've been around. Now, the underbelly of that is we've also, unfortunately, been hurting people for thousands of years. It's only relatively, let's be honest, the last 50, 60 years that there's been a very big push in occupational health and safety. Now, there's this thing, and, you know, no disrespect, but OSHA's been around 50 years. I'm basically as old as a government agency. They have made a tremendous impact in a lot of areas. But I told you, we're still having around 1,000 accidental deaths a year in this industry because it is so unique. You know, we don't create widgets on a factory line. We build things out of nowhere, or we go in and we rehabilitate projects that might need some help. Every day, every hour is a different environment that we're constantly, as safety professionals, trying to look at and figure out how to reduce the risk, eliminate the risk, how to make things better for the workers. So this is a dangerous industry. Now, this is an interesting video I want to share with you, and it's something I found a while back, but it's this type of scenario that really made me start thinking back in 2011, 2012 about technology. I never had an incident that bad happen on a job site, but I can tell you some crazy stories of tower cranes and what can happen with high wind loads or when operators make mistakes. There were so many times there was things happening on a site that I really wondered about, why can technology not prevent that? You know, case in point, if you ever walked up on a crane, let's say a rubber tire crane, a 60-ton rubber tire, and you hear a beep, 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 beep sound, while it's under load and you're trying to ask the operator of what's going on. That beep, beep, beep is generally the alarm telling them that there's too much load, like something bad's about to happen. And why would they continue to operate when the machine's clearly telling them not to do that? That's where I started looking for technology of trying to understand how could we get a little bit better? How could we get a little more controlled with our work? And it's challenging. So one of the things I always challenge safety professionals is ask them, how much are we doing to improve safety? And more importantly, what can we do better? How much better can we do? Now, the way I've looked at this since I got in our industry, and I came into the industry around 2001, there are 4 things that are set in place currently that protect workers. We have government regulations. We have company rules that sometimes kind of mimic the rules. There's training that's put in place, and there's PPE. And it's kind of funnels down. If you look at, the hierarchy of controls, I'm trying to mimic that a little bit, but there's 4 macro things in place to protect our workers. And as we go through them one by one, you have to really wonder, OSHA's 50 years old. There's government regulations. They have done a tremendous amount, but they still haven't completely eliminated risk out of our industry, death, disfiguring accidents, even minor injuries. Then there's this thing. Everybody's got a brain, and we are wired as humans with a survival instinct. We're generally looking around for alligators and snakes that, could bite us and hurt us, or a bear that could eat us. We're wired at a primal level that way. And it fascinates me to understand why humans will do things that go against their own intuition, that they know are not safe, that could possibly hurt them or worse. And why do they go against their brain? Why do they go against human nature? It's one of these analogies. If you know who that is, Homer Simpson jumping the shark. I have witnessed employees literally willing to risk life and limb for money, that hourly rate to take care of themselves and their families. And it's mind-numbing to understand how somebody can be in such a scenario that they're willing to literally risk themselves when they shouldn't. But it gets to these mental models. What does that mental model look like? What does the employees look like? And granted, they have changed a lot. In the 20 years that I've been in this industry, they've changed a lot. They've changed tremendously in the last 10. They've tremendously changed, let's be honest, since COVID, since 2019, there has been a very different light put on safety, because when this industry was deemed essential and we were allowed to continue operating, we had to go to the drawing board really quick about 6 feet, about how many people can you put on a buck hoist, and the temperatures and the mask. And we're really good at innovating in this industry under crisis. So again, technology is the theme of the day. How can technology make improvements about safety? And that's what I want you to kind of start thinking about at the companies that you're working with or working for. And kind of also look at it this way. Why is safety not looked at as the best friend of production? I don't want to put any bad thoughts in your minds or pollute how you look at the industry, but let's just say historically, safety has not been very well looked upon in this industry. And I argued for years that safety actually was the best friend of production, because if everyone is working and no one is getting hurt, there's no first aids, there's no broken bones, there's no fatalities, there's no OSHA inspections. If everything's going to plan, that is full capacity production. But the minute anything happens and stops, we got a problem. But safety was always looked at, unfortunately, in light of, hey, why are you slowing me down? Can't you go back to the office? I could go on and on about the culture that has been changing, but there is still an underbelly there. Now, when we look at this technology, I want you to think about this. And it's an interesting quote from Albert Einstein, who was arguably a really smart human. And it's about your thinking. And I've said the term a couple of times, mental models. I want you to think about mental models. But the quote is, the thinking that got us to where we are is not the thinking that will get us to where we want to be. And with safety, in particular, technology, this is really kind of where we're at. I still know several safety professionals that don't put a lot of credence into technology or believe in technology or what it can do. And it's an interesting topic to kind of keep there at the forefront. So think about that. Now let's dive in a little bit and talk about safety programs. Now, as long as I've been doing this, I still honestly think there's two types of programs. And I'm saying specifically for construction, because that's kind of where I live and that's my life. You have compliance-based over here on the left. It's basically OSHA says you do it. You're checking the box, you follow the rules, whatever it takes to get the job done. And then on the other side, there's the performance-based. We go beyond minimums. You're hearing the talk of human performance or safety 2.0. We're talking about raising the bar. There's a lot of good things happening on the fringe. It's not still the standard by any stretch, but that's where we can lean into this technology. Now, the way I've tried to design what I'm going to show you next is you have the traditional hierarchy of controls. I'm trying to pair technology kind of alongside that, right? So if you think about first of eliminating a hazard, well, I want you to visualize a hazard, because if you can see it, you can think about it a little more clearly. Substitution, well, let's think about virtual training. Let's give them that muscle memory mentally, not physically. Then we'll dive in a little bit more. There's some things I want to talk to you about: physical proximity, about personal focus, documentation. At the end of this, I want you to really think and go back to your companies. Here's the challenge. Is this the year, it's 2023, the year that you can put a little bit more technology into your safety program? So there's 5 ways that I really talk about technology. Now, for time's sake today, I'm going to skip through the evolution of PPE because we could probably spend an hour there. There's been so many amazing advancements, but we're going to go through BIM, how to use BIM for pre-planning. I want to talk to you about augmented reality and virtual reality for training. Documentation apps is going to be interesting because I'm really shifting my focus more from digitizing safety to using AI to crawl the data that you're creating. And then the last part, we're going to talk about apps for mental toughness. So the first one, if you're familiar with what BIM is, I want you to really kind of think about it differently. When I left the industry in 2015, this is what pre-planning looked like on a job site. A lot of paper, sometimes Excel. And, a human had to fill that paper out. A different human came and collected it, scanned it, organized it, sent it to somebody to maybe put it into a spreadsheet or log it into some software. These days, we're talking about hazard planning. I want you to think about it a little bit differently. So on the left side is that paper-based. It's one-dimensional. You can't really view the hazards. It's very repetitive. I've seen a lot of very poorly done project task plans, project hazard analysis, whatever you want to call them. If we think about it in a digital sense, if we're pre-planning out digitally, it is in 3 dimensions. You can view the hazard. You can really talk about things because you can see them, and it's a dynamic process. Now, how does this work? It's through BIM. So building information modeling, 3D models. If you're working for a company that has a BIM department, you're drawing in this program. You may not really be involved in it. I've talked to a handful of safety professionals that do, but generally when I ask rooms of safety professionals, hey, do you know what BIM is? A few hands go up, and I say, do you as a safety professional work with the BIM? A lot of the hands go down. So Autodesk Revit up at the top right, that is the cornerstone product that all of BIM are created in about 98% of commercial construction in the US. Everything else you see on here, they're add-ons, and they do different things. So Revit, again, is the authoring tool. And that's what builds a model. This is where you could go in and look at what a structure is going to look like, and then think through what hazards could look like for fall protection, roofing, deep excavations, traffic, lots of good stuff. Now, if you add on some products, the first one I would encourage you to look at is called Celebri. It is a rules checking engine. And what I mean by that is if you see this stack right here, this column where the red is, what if you wanted to know every window casing that's shorter than 39 inches or any hole greater than 2 inches? It's not a safety program. This is designed for clash detection, and it's kind of a quality control program. But if you use the tool, if you ask the program the right questions, it will give you safety answers. So if your company is using this, I encourage you, go explore it, check it out, and ask one of your BIM BDC teammates to show you how it works and see what you can query out of it. Now, the next one is a very interesting concept. This is Iris VR. So this is virtual reality. Think about if you could be one of these avatars I'm showing you in this mock-up. So there's the human in the headset. So you're in a full headset, you got gear, the hand controls. You can go in and you're in the meeting literally in a BIM. So the owner, the architect, the designer, the superintendent, the project manager, the safety director, you can all literally be in a BIM looking at hazards. You can ask questions and you can tag them and mark them in the model in real time to have to come back and put an answer to. So it's an immersive visual 3D experience that's unlike anything you've probably looked at when you're talking about pre-planning for a safety project. So AR and VR, let's talk about that. So over on the left, this is the Microsoft HoloLens. That is basically a computer you wear on your head. It has a screen where the images, this is where the augmented part comes in. It casts images into that screen that then pick up into your field of view, and you're still seeing the real world, but you're seeing an augmented version where you can cast a BIM into the real world. Now, the other side over here, this is a VR headset. So you're full virtual reality. You are closed off to the outside world. What you see is a digital world, but it can be changed and updated in real time to show you a lot of different things. So what would that look like? You know, we're talking about training, you know, the world that I came up through, a lot of VHS, and I'm dating myself. If you know what a VHS tape is, we had a lot of VHS, and then it became DVD, and then they were put onto the internet, or there was old school paper forms, or there were booklets. It was basically very one-dimensional, sometimes two. It was really hard to explain hazards in writing and in pictures. It was basically given in a lecture style, kind of the way I'm doing now. I'm giving you all a ton of information virtually very fast. Now let's think about digital training, where it can be three-dimensional, even four-dimensional. If you've ever been to some of those new theaters where the chair vibrates and they squirt water, stuff like that, you can get some very interesting training mechanisms, but they're experiences rather than just looking at static pieces of paper. And they can be very interactive depending on the platform. Now, to give you kind of an idea, what am I talking about? So this is from a friend of mine, Travis Voss. He is now the Director of Innovation for SMACNA. This is a Microsoft HoloLens about 5 years ago. He is walking a site in Chicago with the HoloLens, and he has the BIM for their HVAC system loaded in. Now, they're walking this project looking at it from a quality control standpoint. They're out making sure that everything's going to fit in the right spot. When I saw this as a safety professional, it made me think, I wonder, could you view the hazards better? Like, what if the safety person's looking at this and talking about leading edge, fall protection, what kind of scaffolding would you use on this floor? Where are the open holes? There's a lot to think about when you now can see where the work will be, and especially in relation to other trades. You're literally viewing the hazards before they're there to think through, how are we going to do that? Like, you can see over there that area to the left where there is an open chase in the rails. What if you've got to put that duct work above that? How would you get there? So a lot of interesting things to think about in that sense. Now, when we start talking about virtual reality, there's been a few attempts to create basically gaming engines to teach people different things. So the ASSE, now the ASSP, had a tool that they first put out there that was working on teaching you how to wear fall protection in different instances. So this one, you can see there's a leading edge, there's some guardrails, but then there's the open area where there's going to be that hoist. And so you're trying to train the employee of the ABCs of fall protection, trying to figure out, well, am I going to wear a body belt, the chest harness, the full body harness? What is it that I need? And it is a gaming style engine. So this is visual. You're looking, you're learning. Now they're also going to go through and do the inspection, the fit, all this is done in a virtual reality environment. Really different way of trying to train someone that's never worn something. Now, some of the newer versions that have come out of this, there's a product called Hardhead VR. They've got 15 or 20 different sets of training. And I had my 10-year-old daughter go through the excavation one, and she actually passed it with flying colors. I had to explain to her a couple of things, like what is an oxygen deficient atmosphere, but she picked up on it really quick. Now, Transfer VR is another option, MindForge. There's 3 or 4 of these with catalogs out there for you to take a look at and kind of consider which one of these may or may not fit the best for your team, for your company. But the idea is we're training them digitally, virtually, and it's a gaming engine of they have to, pass a test, pass a hazard. They're looking to correct and do things, and there's no physical repercussions from learning. of trying to learn how to use a tool or how to dig an excavation. A lot of really interesting ways of kind of thinking through how that could work. Now, documentation, safety has always had some really interesting ways of trying to figure out how are we going to document our hazards better, that we can prove that we did inspect, that we found hazards and we controlled them. And I've spent a lot of time advocating to the safety professionals that we must digitize, as in, let's stop using paper. Let's stop just using Excel. Let's use a dedicated tool for doing your inspections. Now, 4 or 5 years, 6 years into this, we kind of have a different problem. I'm not really trying to encourage people so much to digitize now. Now, they still need to, but where I'm really putting a lot of my educational research is on artificial intelligence for safety workflows. And I'll show you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. So 15 years ago, we were still doing traditional paper-based workflows as a whole. There's still some companies now doing them, and I know them because I come across them periodically. But there's the traditional paper-based over here all the way on the left, right? Then you look in the middle, this is the new ground that we've been plowing for several years of digital documentation. I started using apps in 2012 on an iPad. We're 10 years into this versus thousands of years of building, and let's say arguably a couple hundred years of industrialized building. So we're going from paper to this digital. And so these apps, they do let us do things in real time. They let us customize. They're responsive and they're dynamic. And yes, to me, they're so much better than paper or even just basic Excel or a Lotus spreadsheet. The kicker now is you're developing what we call pools of data, lakes of data. You got all this data. I used to joke about paper. I called it it was really just information, because once you filled out a form and put it in a file folder in a desk, it went to what I joke as the carbon locker. It really wasn't very useful. Apps are useful because there's data, but when you get a lot of data, how do you cut through it? What do you do? Well, that's where on the right side now we start talking about AI-driven workflows, artificial intelligence, when we're writing these programs for the machines to crawl the data and look for triggers. When they're looking for all the yeses or all the nos, they're looking for all the hazards checked versus all the hazards that are controlled and closed out. You can collect and organize your data. You can review it faster than any human can. So there's huge productivity in the office from this to be able to really sift through what you have found in the field and correct it faster. Now, what does this really look like? What am I talking about? This video playing over here on the right. This is a product called New Metrics. It was originally called smartvid.io. And they created a safety photo platform several years ago. And one of the things they challenged us when I was with the contact crew was, hey, go try this and try it, see if you can break it. Well, this video that you're watching, this was our attempt to break it. So I'm going to play that video again and talk to you about it. So I'm uploading a photo, and it was looking for 4 things. Am I wearing a hard hat, vest, glasses, and gloves? They called it the glove report. 4 things. And so there's that red box, and it scanned, and it was 4 issues. Now here I am with Buck Davis at a conference back in the day. And so see it scanning and see that little box pop up, the big box pop up, multiple boxes are going through there because that AI was scanning all the faces, hands, heads, torsos. Let me play it again so you can see. So one person, here comes the box. See the red box, it's scanning me, and then it's going to come back and see that 4. Now, here's that photo, no glasses. It's scanning in every face, hand, and torso in that background. See how it locked in on that one guy behind Buck's head? And it found 39 PPE hazards in one photo in seconds. That's the power of AI. That's the power of machine learning and artificial intelligence of when it's trained to look for something, it's A/B. It's the human should have on a hard hat. It's not wearing a hard hat. The human should have on glasses or gloves. Now, this works pretty good for basic PPE. I've been asking them for years of like, hey, can we start figuring out, are ladder rungs missing or guardrails missing? And again, it's training the AI, but this is the possibility of what I'm trying to show you of where technology can really kick in and do some amazing things for our industry. Now, another one that I've been looking at, this is versatile. So this is a camera system that they mount on tower crane hooks. Now, again, this is designed as a production tool. They're trying to record all day where that crane goes and however much material it's moving and placing. It records all day like a DVR. And then at the end of the day, it sends all that data up. And their system, their machine learning program is figuring out how much material was moved or placed. The safety guy wants to know, hey, can you tell me how many times employees were underneath that hook? I want to know how many employees stood under the hook. I want to know how long they were under the hook. And if you even thought about like radiating zones out, right? Are we talking right under it, 5 feet away, 10 feet away, 20 feet away? Like how far from the drop zone are employees under that hook at all times? You know, when it's moving, that's one level. But when it's stationary, that's when it gets interesting to start asking some questions, right? Now, the brave new world that we're working on is thinking about how to use AI to do things like creating job hazard analysis, safety plans, safety talks. One of the products that I've been looking at from across the pond in England is called Field, F-Y-L-D. They have some very interesting things that they're doing, and it's still kind of cutting edge. There's a couple other products that I'm looking at that I found, but the idea is they have a knowledge locker, and as the humans interacting with this knowledge base, and you're talking about doing a job hazard analysis, and if you've done 10 job hazard analysis in a row, and you're an electrical worker working in an electrical vault, it's kind of going to start doing that predictive part of knowing, well, if you're doing the same task in the same area, it's going to kind of organize data very similarly. But then if you switch on that 11th day and they go put them in a different room, that's where the hazards really might come back to bite somebody, and the brain may not pick up on them. It's fascinating what we're looking at with some of these AI platforms and products with what they promise to do to help, supplement the human, that mind looking for hazards and actions and kind of just seeing where it's going to go. But it is brave new world. When people are talking to you in our industry about, they have a product and it has AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, I want you to challenge them back and ask them, how old is your data set? I want you to ask them, how big is your data set? What are you comparing our data to? Like, what's that A/B workflow look like to really understand when we're talking artificial intelligence? Make them really explain to you how that program works, because love our technology providers, but sometimes there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, or that algorithm might not quite be trued up as much as they think it is. The ones that I've shown you that work deeply, like Numetrics, I've been talking with that company since 2017. I've seen a lot of advancement, talked a lot with them. So some of these other ones, I'm not quite seeing it, but they're there and there's a lot of good promise. And then one interesting one to throw out there for you is a new concept of micro learning. So little short videos. Typhoon, I have been experimenting with for 6 or 7 months. It is a very interesting platform of recording 2 or 3 minute little toolbox talks that anyone can watch. And then they put little quizzes on the backside, and it's all tracked and managed in a web-based platform in real time. Interesting concept. Instead of a superintendent having to read a piece of paper and maybe they're not the best reader or public speaker, you're letting a platform do it for you. And then they watch a video. So they watch the video, they take a little quiz, and it tracks it for you. Or if they're really good, they can record their own video and put it up in there. But it's one-to-one employee watching micro short training videos, and their retention rate on knowledge, the numbers are pretty impressive when you take a look at it. So that's another one to think about in the different time. So now I skipped over PPE. We spend a lot of time there. I want to hone in on this one right now because it's a subject near and dear to my heart. So mental health in our industry has been a purple elephant for a long time. I can tell you that. I was a safety director that dealt with a lot of things very poorly. We didn't know any better. I'm telling you all, I'm 50 years old, part of Generation X. We were not trained very well to handle our emotions and a lot of things. This industry, the architect, engineering, construction space is a beautiful, amazing industry. People make fabulous livings. We get to do what we want. We build things. We're outside. We go to cool locations. And there's also pretty bad underbelly too, if you don't know how to control it. And one of my friends shared with me this concept a couple of years ago that really resonated when I'm thinking about construction. And he said that you operate in a VUCA environment. And I never heard that term. And VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It's a term that was coined after the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1980s, when the economists in the military, they looked up in the United States and it was kind of WTF, our great enemy's gone. What do we do now? We don't understand. How do we operate? And then that term kind of moved into the police world. And if you think about the AEC space, specifically construction, we are a VUCA environment. It's volatile because it's up and down with market, labor, materials. It's uncertain. We have weather issues practically on a daily basis. It's very complex, especially when we think about our mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. They have done nothing but get more advanced and complex over the last 4 or 5 years, with computers running things, with battery backups and power, and ambiguous. Yeah, where do I even begin to talk about the ambiguous language and contracts in our industry, right? But if you think about us, and you think specifically about the construction industry, I'll flip it on its head this way. And we complete various tasks every day. We always feel like we're underperforming, or we're being told that we're underperforming. We have challenges daily, and we always feel late. This is a pure VUCA environment, and that can chew some people up and spit you out. And so some of the research that I have been doing the past few years is apps to help develop mental toughness. Is how can we handle what this industry throws at us, in addition to our families and our lives? And so I've used a lot of apps that have helped me in a tremendous way. So the ones I'm about to share with you, all of these I personally use, and I can tell you a lot about them. But what I've been trying to work on here is there have been, in our industry, the traditional methods of dealing with mental health. Cold one after work, if you know what I mean. Any kind of liquid beverage to numb certain feelings, or just basically ignoring your feelings, or never showing weakness, never confiding in somebody that you may be having some trouble, or just thinking, it's all going to be over soon, so whatever. There's a lot of dark demons in some people in this industry. Yours truly. I had a lot of issues with anxiety that I still work on today. I have them under control pretty good, but every now and then they can snap up, and I have to put them back in the corner. And so to do that, I was looking at digital means. So I used a lot of different apps, and I've tried a lot of different apps, and they help me do a lot of good things. They're very flexible. You can pay them by the month. You can do them annual. They're dynamic. There's a lot of good options out there, but you kind of got to know where to look. So one of the first ones let's talk about is meditation. That's something I've struggled with for years, of how to control the monkey part of my mind. It overrides the monk part of my mind. That back part, it just goes crazy. And even sitting down now, trying to count in my mind to 5, a squirrel jumps in there pretty quick. And having somebody else guide me to do a short meditation, to do a self-check, breathing work, trying to go to sleep. I've tried a lot of different apps. Calm is currently my favorite one. I pay them the $69 a year. I've tried a few others like Headspace, and it's great. I've tried Relax, tried a few. Honestly, this one, whatever it is about, Tamara, one of the head coaches there, I just like her voice. It kind of helps soothe the savage beast. When I do the body scans, a 5-minute or 10-minute, it just helps me really kind of block out everything else, where I can go in and focus on my mind, and then realize I need to pick this and work on it, and this next thing, and kind of hone my mind. But it helps because I'm using a headset, and I can sit in my desk, or I can be in my car. I've done these at the airport, at a construction conference. You could do them basically anywhere, because who knows what you're listening to. But guided meditations have really helped me focus my gray matter tremendously. Now, breathing, that's another one that I've been working on a lot. And you're saying, well, breathing, I breathe all day. Well, what I'm talking about is intentional breathing, of knowing, yes, your body has to breathe in and out to get the oxygen and keep everything moving. But when I say intentional breathing, is when are you really thinking of, have you ever noticed about yourself, do you breathe in through your nose or through your mouth? Do you have shallow breaths? Or do you sometimes take a deep breath? So apps here have helped me really understand there's different types of breath. I've got 4 or 5 breaths that I have learned the last year to control my anxiety. I've got a couple little short ones. One of my friends, Seth Ickerson, calls a BAMO breath, BAMO, and that stands for breathe, and move on. And it's literally 4 seconds in through your nose. So you take a breath and then you blow it out. And when you're taking that 4 seconds in, you count. And when you blow it out, you count. And the idea is, as you're counting in your head, you can't think about whatever is upsetting you. But that's just a little basic one, right? Float is an interesting app that'll actually show you like how long can you hold your breath, and more importantly, how long can you exhale, like how long can you blow that out. And it measures and does some really interesting ways of how it teaches you. So see, it's got a visual. So it's literally telling you breathe in, breathe out. As you get through here, it's got different versions where I've got 4 or 5 that help calm me down and really focus my mind. But then I also have some that help pep me up to, wake up in the morning, or when I really need good energy, like right now when I'm trying to present to people. Breath work has really helped me unlock a lot of focus issues, but I had to have some guides. So I've taken some courses, but these apps have really helped me where you're visually looking and you're getting the cue. It tells you to breathe in, it tells you to hold it, and then it tells you to let it out. Float is definitely an interesting one that still finding a lot of more value out of it by the week. Now, journaling is another concept to think about, of writing things down. You can do this digitally. You can do this with paper. I've got lots of notebooks where I still do journals and I write things down. And in my mind, I kind of have a little system worked out where I use digital journals to document things that I don't want to deal with or I'm struggling, because in my mind, I can pull them out and hold them here. And I have the power. I have the power to delete them. When I write things down, they're there, and scratching something out is not the same as deleting it to me. But everybody's got a different way. But journaling, I found to be a very therapeutic process to really think through what is bothering me, looking for patterns of like what things keep coming up, looking for things that maybe I can get a better grasp on. But day one is the one that I'm using. It's got a free version. So if you just put it on one device, they don't charge you. If you want to see it on your smartphone or your tablet or your computer, that's when the paid plans kick in, and how much storage, because it's got nice features where you can add photos and videos. Like if you want to remember some good things, or there's some things you did, like I don't want to do that again. It's really interesting concept of what it does. So it kind of has good little way of, you can see daily where you're adding things. I try and practice a lot of gratitude in my writing, not necessarily focusing so much on the dark, but this will let you go back to and kind of look like, where all did I journal and where have I written things down? And it's interesting, that concept. And again, these apps, crutch is probably the wrong word, but they provide a gateway to let you try some new things in your wellness, in your health, that you might not have thought before. Now, the next one I'm going to talk to you about is brainwaves. And this is an interesting sound app. So it's using alpha waves, gamma waves, different types of waves that when you put the earbuds in, if you think about some classic rock albums or some hip hop or even classical, when an album is mixed in a very special way and you hear a little bit of that sound come through your left or it comes to the right, or think about like Dolby surround sound, as movement comes, the sound wraps around your head. This kind of does the same thing in a very interesting way. So it does binaural tones, it does sound waves, and this works on megahertz. So it goes from 4 to 40. It does some interesting things that work on the brain. And what I've noticed is I have a few of these that help me with calming down. I have a few of these that I work through at night that help me kind of calm my mind down to go to sleep. I have some, I used one right before I came on here with you all that helps kind of focus my mind and amp up my energy, just like kind of in the breath work, and see if this plays through for you. So it's kind of subtle to hear. It's rushing water, but underneath there is that humming sound. So this is one that's an anxiety aid. I'm going to play it again for you if you can hear this. So it's interesting. Sometimes it sounds like leaves or wind or water. So there's a sound on top, but underneath is where that gamma is, that megahertz, that's helping calm the brain down. And, at first I really looked at this very sideways. I'm like, I still don't know if this is going to work. But as I started to listen to them, and then 4 or 5 weeks later realized, wow, you know what? When I'm stressed out and I listen to that one play track, it did help. Or at night, I can literally feel myself going from still worked up, I can't stop thinking about work or family or whatever, and I can feel the sleep starting to crawl into my brain and starting to feel tired. It was really interesting to kind of see how things went. Last one I'll share with you is talking about movement. One of the best things that I found for health and wellness, mental health, is physical movement. So you have the luxury, go outside for a 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk, get as much natural sunlight as you can. If you don't have the availability to go to a gym, find an app that would work for you to do some kind of workout in your office or in your hotel. So I've been using DDP yoga for several years. It's kind of a power style yoga, but they also have chair position. They literally have workouts that you could do sitting in a chair, or if you had to, if you're bedridden, of different ways of using isometric contractions on your muscles. It's got a nice dashboard. There's a lot of good yoga apps out there that show you the workflows and the movements, but the goal is, move your body, get outside. If you travel a lot like I used to, or your work doesn't always present an opportunity, there's probably a way, some way or another, that you can figure out how to get a little bit of movement, track that movement, and just do a little bit more of how you can feel better about yourself. But again, all of these I've experimented with, of trying to work on the different things going on inside my head, and trying to encourage more people in the AEC space of, hey, look, if you're not right, you're not right, please find some help. Use some of these apps, talk to somebody. And there's a whole different slew of these we could talk about with different websites that connect you to peer coaching. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So I'll leave you with this. These are the 5 ways that I'm just trying to share and say you can use technology to improve safety. So number 1 is try and start using BIM, 3D modeling. Use that to visualize your hazards. You can see them before you build it. You can start addressing and knowing if you need more scaffold, deeper shoring, how much money is that going to cost? Start thinking about training through augmented reality and virtual reality. That way you can look at these things again. Instead of training on the job and maybe getting hurt, you can train them more proactively ahead of time or retrain somebody. We talked about the apps, and really think about your data. If you're using digital documentation, how are you reviewing and crawling that documentation? Didn't talk about PPE today, but that could be a talk for a future conversation. And then the mental toughness apps. It's an interesting concept because in our industry, for sure, when you say mental, people already get the side eye and they get a little weird. But it is this mantra. If you think about warriors, if you think about the military, think about professional athletes. They excel in their fields because they are mentally tough. They understand how to control themselves or a situation around them. And that mental toughness is what some of these apps can at least help you do, kind of cracking the door open a little bit and giving it a shot of what you can do. So please, if this information was awesome to you, please be curious. Try new things out. At the end of the day, protect yourself, protect your crews. If you don't take care of yourself, I can tell you, no one else is going to take care of you. So thank you so much. Left a couple of minutes there for buffer. Go ahead and open up. If anyone has any questions, comments, or the things you'd like to learn more about. Hey, Paul, how are you, sir?
Hey, good afternoon. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm quick introduction. I'm Paul Schlumper, Director of Safety, Health, Environmental Services, and also a PMOSH faculty member. I'm happy to tag team with Dr. Ashuri as your moderator for the tail end of the session. First and foremost, Rob, thank you so much. As always, that was a fantastic session. So we do have just a few minutes left for question and answer. I think probably the easiest way is for you to put them in the chat. Rob, can you see the chat or you want me to read them to you?
I can see it. I'll pop
Okay.
over there.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead and put your questions in the chat. You see Rob's contact information on the screen now, so that's there for your future reference. If someone would go ahead and put the last couple of slides up, just while you're thinking of your questions, we can mention the upcoming sessions in the speaker series.
Pull mine down there. Probably gave them too much information in a day, sir.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't. That was fantastic. So go ahead and scroll forward if you would, so you can see, go back, here you go. So while you're thinking of your questions, you see some of the next sessions that we have coming up in the speaker series. The next one is dated November 17th, is a career in safety and health, a process or a product, with Grover A. Voss. So that's the next one coming up. And you see some upcoming sessions in February, March, and April of 2024. And if you would go to the next slide. Also, just a reminder to you that for anyone interested in applying for the PMOSH program, applications are now being accepted. So this is for fall 2024 cohort. So please scan this QR code, go to the URL that you see on the slide, and apply for PMOSH. And of course, you can ask any of us any questions that you might have. And I see another question in the chat about the slides, and I see that Nicole has already answered that question regarding the slides that will be sent out with the recording. So thank you, Nicole. We have about 5 minutes left. Any other questions for Rob? And let me once again thank all of you for joining us as well. I thanked Rob, but thank you for joining us. We appreciate everyone participating in these speaker series.
Gave him too much information, Paul.
No,
Lots
never.
to contemplate today.
As always, Rob, you were fantastic.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It's an ever evolving work of art.
A lot of great comments. We appreciate it, folks.
Yeah, AR does seem to be the way. There's going to be a lot coming to our industry once they can figure out bringing it to the site is still the challenge. All right.
Well, it looks like most folks are starting to sign off now and thank us for the time. So once again, Rob, thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. Appreciate your time and your expertise. And thank all of you for joining us. And please join us for the next speaker series session. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, sir. Talk soon.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.